Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Matt Arruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick-and-mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I'm passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love, because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you are meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Whether it's building a business, growing a relationship, staying healthy, or evolving as a person, it's all hard. But you get to choose which hard is worth it. In this episode today on the Inspire and Move podcast, we are getting real about decisions we've made, what we've learned through challenge, and how choosing the right hard has changed everything. Welcome back to the show. It is your host, Ali Arruda, joined in studio with the one and only Matt Arruda.
Hello, everybody.
And we are so excited about today's episode. This is actually your episode idea. You came up with this one,
That's
and
right.
It is so fitting.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
We are coming off of a nice little travel sprint with a mastermind that we did together in Newport Beach, California. And then I came home for a nice little 24 hours and then immediately turned around and went to Las Vegas for an Alex and Layla Hermosi Scale Your Business workshop.
And in those 24 hours, you went to another event.
Yes.
For our girls, Maria Tassi and Christina Bartold, for
High Vibe Women,
their event, which was about an hour from where we live. So yes, it's been a lot going on, my friends, but we're here for it.
Yeah.
We choose it.
And that's probably another episode. People are so fascinated, like how do I do it all? But when you also do things that bring you joy, you find the energy and adrenaline.
Why do you do it all?
Yeah. Because I enjoy it.
That's right.
And because we can do hard things. Mm-hmm. And that is what we're talking about today.
Bring it.
So I think we can come at this from so many different angles in terms of doing hard things in the gym, which let's even start there because we are currently doing hard things in the gym because we, at our mastermind, committed to training for, documenting, and completing our first ever High Rocks race.
Now, it is a partners High Rocks race where we are both going to be running the 8 kilometers that is dispersed throughout the entirety of the race. But at every 1 kilometer mark becomes a strength station that forces you to move in ways that might not necessarily be comfortable, but beyond that, they compound onto each other, where it becomes more difficult as the race goes on. You become more tired, it's more physically taxing, so on and so forth. But the reason why we're doing it is because we have committed to wanting to be a part of this, not just to grow ourselves physically, and we love a good challenge, and me especially, and all of the rest, but ultimately, we know that there's a prize at the end of this that you either are in or you are out of, not a consolation, we'll take them anyways.
Yeah.
And we want to win all the time. And this is one of those things where if we are not going to win, it's going to suck to be literally on the outside looking in when all it took was the decision to do something that was hard, right?
For context, the mastermind at the end of the year in October, when we all have completed it, there's a winner's dinner based off of this commitment that you make in front of all of your peers just this few weeks ago in Newport Beach. This is when we did High Rocks as well as a business goal. And there's a winner's dinner. And I guess now there's kind of like a loser's dinner as well. But we do not want to go to the loser's dinner.
I don't even want to know what the loser's dinner is about.
Yeah.
I don't want to put that in the universe. I don't care. I'm not going to be a part of it. So let's just focus on the good stuff.
We will be going to the winner's dinner.
Of course we will.
Everyone heard it here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've said it too many times for it to not to happen. And that's kind of what I mean is everything's a decision. Right? Mm-hmm. Whether you do something or you don't do something, the act of not doing something is still a decision that you made, right? The idea of I'm going to go out and party on Friday night or I'm just going to stay in. You still made a decision one way or the other, right? So knowing this, rolling it back into what our wager is, at least as it pertains to the High Rocks race, that decision is going to make for a hard few weeks leading up to the race itself at the end of April. And the race itself is also going to be hard. So we got to spend money to go there and take time out of our schedule here back home. None of these things are easy. It came with a decision to do, our own decision, mind you, nobody feel bad for us, but it was a hard decision nevertheless. The alternative to that is to not do any of that. Instead of training, why don't we just, I don't know, go to the movies? Why don't we take our dogs for more walks? Why don't we go and do things that don't push us any further along the way? And then come October, when everybody else who does complete their wager goes out to the winner's dinner, we could be standing on the sidelines while the bus drives away, waving to our friends who did decide to make the hard decision. And that in and of itself will also be hard. So therein lies the crux. Everything is hard, guys. You just make the decision as to which hard you want to choose, because they're all going to make a difference, good or bad, one way or the other.
I'm going to take this in the direction that's maybe a little more, tugs at the emotional heartstrings. That I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, when I was walking home from the gym, knowing that we wanted to talk about this today when we record. And I always tell people, if they're going through a hard time, it depends on obviously where the conversation is going, about rock bottom. That typically comes after you lose someone that you love, especially if you lose them unexpectedly. And I experienced this after the loss of my dad. Came unexpectedly. It crushed me. It is the first and only time in my life I've truly experienced heartache and heartbreak. And I recognized very quickly that I was at rock bottom. And at rock bottom, you have a choice. You can stay there and you can feel super sorry for yourself and, sit in those emotions, or you can claw your way out of that, which will be hard. And it is hard. And that is one of the things that I sit with so often in terms of making hard choices, that you have the power to do it. It's not going to be easy. And you have to make that choice and have to do the work to get out of that and get out of that hard place. But it starts, as you said, with the choice.
Still hard.
Still hard. But
it hopefully puts you in a position, the idea obviously is to put you in a position where you come out of it being stronger than you ever were.
Mm-hmm. And being able to sit in that choice and that decision and celebrate that for your success and for yourself, that you have had the power to make this hard decision, and you will have to continue making hard decisions. Getting out of rock bottom, that's hard decision number 1. And then what you're going to do next, that's hard decision number 2. Mm-hmm. And there's a path beyond that sometimes will be nice, sometimes could be easy, but sometimes could be hard.
And there's different examples of obviously what this could look like. We've made a couple of references here where, there's something that is motivating us in the way of a reward, and whether or not we experience that or we don't, and what kind of level of difficulty we have to get into in order to be on the right side of that. You're obviously making reference to a very personal loss, which is absolutely going to be as acute of a feeling as it gets when it comes to a decision that you need to make to better yourself or not in the moment. But there's other things we can give some examples of, one of which is, and we've had to do this a couple of times, is you need to have a hard conversation sometimes, right? And, I've taken over the last couple of years where we've had members of the team at Benchmark where we like them well enough, but they're just not going to be meant for us either immediately or certainly in the long term. And both Ali and I, obviously, we are not people who want to hurt people's feelings. Mm-hmm. We are not people who are looking for fights. It's just not in our nature. But if you don't have that discussion, understanding that person, those people are not meant to be part of what it is that you are creating. In fact, they might be detracting from what it is that you are creating. You not having that decision because it's too hard is only going to compound to the point where 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the road, if you let it go that far, could you imagine the amount of festering that happens in there, the resentment that you feel towards whatever it is that you're looking to have that conversation about, or whoever it is you might need to have that conversation with. But beyond that, think about what that negative impact is going to have in your space over that time, letting these things grow to the point where they are negatively affecting other people than just you at that point, and you not being able to impart your own professionalism and to be able to move the needle and grow because you have this blockage that you haven't removed because the conversation is too hard. So you've got to pick the hard in that spot too, right? Is it hard to have the conversation? Of course it is. But what's harder is not having that conversation and having to fix all of the fallout because of the things that have gone wrong because you didn't have that conversation.
Oh, yeah. And I know I'm so aware that I do a lot of analogies and comparables on this podcast when it comes to the gym and training. But I think of, maybe because I am a personal trainer and so I have these conversations frequently one-on-one with my clients, that of course this is hard. It should be hard.
Absolutely.
Sled push, box jumps, you name it. They're not necessarily a natural thing that we all wake up and know how to do. But that's a lot of things in life, and they are going to be hard. You are probably, if you've never done a box jump before, you might suck at it.
Mm-hmm. You will suck at it.
You will suck at it.
You will.
I've done them before, and I've like smashed my face against the wall because the box was against the wall.
I mean,
not smashed. I'm being dramatic. But, or you bang your shin or you fall on your kneecap.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to be good at everything.
That's right.
And that's why you work hard, you have the hard conversations, you train hard. I love the message that Ed Milet talks about all the time on his show and in his book that's literally called The Power of One More. And it is the power of doing that one more rep or having one more conversation.
So good.
Talking to one more person at a networking event. Having that one more rep for your dumbbell chest press.
It sets you apart, right, from anybody else or most people across the board. And these things that we're talking about, you making the decision to do this one more thing, or to engage in what is the hard thing right now that you know is for the betterment of you in the long run. If we're being honest with each other, most people do not do this. Path of least resistance is what most people subscribe to. So even when I think of, I now love cooking and I am good at cooking, but it didn't just happen. And I would say that proudly because I put a lot of reps in to be good at what that is now. And I really enjoy it. And it serves for me as more than just, sustenance, right? It's a creative outlet for me, and it's my love language and it's how I show people I love them, all that stuff. But my point with this is it wasn't a natural thing for me to just whip up something delicious or healthy, or both, more accurately and more intensely, I'd say, for what it is that we use in our spaces. But if you're not going to learn how to cook for yourself, then more often than not, the alternative is to what?
Order takeout.
Exactly. You don't know how that's being made for you, not to mention how much more money that is. And you compound that over and over and over again over the course of how many months or years, if that becomes your default with how you feed yourself, literally, that catches up sooner than later. And then to speak to your end of choosing your hard, if you're not going to prioritize your health, it won't make a big difference in the first few days after you haven't made it a priority. But as you get older, certainly, talking from somebody who has felt it as he's gotten older, if you are not prioritizing your health, if you're not prioritizing every part of your well-being, not just movement, but what you put in your body, how much rest you give yourself, the people you surround yourself with, all of these decisions that need to be made every day, slowly but surely, they will make an impact that do not serve you. In fact, they will take away from you. And that's going to be much, much harder, not to mention how much more regret you would have knowing that you could have made a decision that would have put you on a different path.
You said one thing there when you talked about relationships and people, and you take that and you take hard decisions and doing hard things and you put them together, whether it be leaving a relationship. We've seen that with some people and friends in our life, and more so in the past. And there's sort of this sweet spot where you need it to be like X a number of weeks to really get over that hard hump, where then you can be in the clear to get into the phase 2 of that hard decision. And breaking up with someone is hard, or leaving a relationship, whatever it may look like. Some are probably much more difficult and harder than others. But even friendships, you and I have gone through a big transition in the last probably 2 years in terms of our friendships and friendship circles, social circles, that also correlates with our expansion season, which is so interesting. But you also hear this a lot, that as you grow, not everyone's going to grow with you on that same journey. Not everyone is going to be happy for you and excited for you, or go into a room and praise you. They actually could do the total opposite, and they could be talking shit about you.
Yeah, and a lot of them do, right? And that's unfortunate, but they were never meant to be the people for you long-term anyway. I think, they do that as a means of not recognizing who you are anymore, let's say.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it in a bad way. That's not to say that you've turned to somebody different for the negative. You've just turned to somebody different. You've been working on yourself. You've evolving yourself. You are becoming a higher version of what you were when they knew you, when you weren't quite at that version. And if I'm being honest, they haven't. They haven't evolved the same way or at the same speed. And there's just this disconnect of who they thought they knew when you first met years earlier. And that's not to fault them, but a lot of time people's natural reaction to not wanting to recognize that they haven't evolved the same way is to put down whoever it is they're looking at, as opposed to questioning what it is that they've been doing or not doing accordingly, to maybe be moving along at the same pace. Teach their own. You're going to find the people you need to find when you need to find them. That we have seen over and over again. But that's not what this episode is about.
Yeah.
This episode is about having the ability, having the balls to make the hard decisions when they face you. And sometimes, to your point, those hard decisions need to be made as it specifically pertains to having those discussions surrounding relationships. Not easy, because sometimes those relationships need to be had with family members.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody's more ride or die for the most part than your family. But talk about people who have only known you as one way for all of your life, and then might not as easily understand the what or the why it is that you are doing what you're doing. And if you haven't had that discussion with them to really articulate, not it is that just what you're doing, but why you're doing it, who you're looking to serve, who you're looking to impact, what your long-term goals are because of that. If you haven't had that discussion, which could be a hard one, then you can't blame them for not knowing what the hell's going on when they're just looking at this from 10,000 feet up. So, and then that discussion becomes more difficult. The after you've evolved or the while you're evolving discussion becomes more difficult versus just heading it up from the past and making sure that they know so that they can hopefully be on the ride with you, be on the journey with you, be supportive for you. And if they don't want to, and if they're not going to, I mean, that's a decision that you need to make as to whether or not they need to then be on that ride with you. Because
it's another hard conversation.
It's a hard discussion for sure, but the alternative is to not play at the level that you know yourself you're meant to play at. And if you don't, think of all of the people's lives that you don't get to impact, all of the great change that you would get to make if you don't take on the obligation to better yourself.
Mm-hmm. One thing that comes to mind when thinking about hard decisions and doing hard things is even taking that and having a bit of a reframe to look at it with a lens of gratitude and that you get to. And I feel like I am using that so often in my own life right now, but I also use it when I'm coaching my clients, whether it be one-on-one business coaching and mentorship or one-on-one personal training, that we get to do these things. Again, let's take fitness for an example, that you're able-bodied, that you have 2 working arms, you have 2 working legs, that you get to do lunges.
Yeah.
Or you get to go have a cold plunge because you can use your hip mobility to get that leg up and over into the cold plunge tub.
So true.
And you're going to be better for it. And I feel like that is one of the most powerful mental reframes that you can use in your relationships, in your health, fitness, and of course in business, that you get to make these hard decisions. How lucky are you to be able to be in a position of having a thriving business that you get to have this hard conversation with someone on your team that wants to grow in a different direction, that opens a door for somebody else to come in and join your network, join your community, join your business.
Yeah, there's so many ways to put that, right? But your worst day is somebody's dream day.
Yes.
Your ability, when we complain about having a hard day at work or something that's frustrating online or a client interaction that is less than ideal, all of those things meant that we first get to have the ability to have all of those kinds of discussions, right? I mean, having a business that's difficult at times still means we get to have a business. And that, for so many people, is just a dream. So we get to have these hard conversations as part of the journey.
Because we have also been on that other side in our 5.5 years of business where we didn't have any business.
That's right.
In 2020 to 2022, we were effectively closed for a year and a half cumulatively where there was no business coming in. So now we get to have these conversations, positive or negative. I prefer the positive ones, but the hard ones are character building. And I think that's another way that you can look at that also, that doing hard things, having hard conversations, making hard decisions, those are building and flexing a muscle that is only going to make you stronger, literally and figuratively.
And there's nothing wrong with knowing that whatever it is you're going into, having the mindset of knowing this is hard. You don't have to wrap it in a bow and think that you're going to skip through it. Conversations are hard. Changing your diet could be hard. Lifting something heavy, hard. If you know this and you're prepared for it accordingly, but you know what's on the outside of that or the other end of it as a reward or as a growth moment or as a learning opportunity, all of those things far outweigh the tiny moment in which things cross your mind as it being difficult. Then there's nothing stopping you because you know that your ROI is so much greater than what the initial point of abrasion is going to be.
I find myself saying this a lot to clients and to friends when it comes to comfort zones. And some people will coast through life, their entire life, very content with being in a comfort zone. And if that works for them, that's great. That doesn't work for me, and I'm really learning that as I get older.
And it likely doesn't work for anybody listening to an entrepreneurship podcast either.
Yeah, and I think that these are all powerful takeaways that you can put in a little picnic basket and save for later, that you're not going to have growth moments that come from comfort zones, that you are not going to grow to be stronger mentally, physically, or emotionally in your comfort zone.
Absolutely. One other example. Allie's really good at just walking into a room and making a bunch of friends and vibrating high. And not that I'm not, but Allie's better at it than I am. So going into rooms for the first time, like we did a few weeks ago at the Elite Mastermind in Newport Beach with a ton of people that are remarkably successful in their own businesses, that could be very intimidating. And it could be something that I don't necessarily have on my list of joy moments of me, nobody else there, me making myself feel less than. But I know that if I don't break through that hard shell or that wall or that ceiling and put myself in an opportunity to be better, I will never get better. And 4 days later, I came out of that room significantly better than what I did going in. But you don't know that until you make the jump to do it.
Absolutely. And I think even some powerful takeaways that all of you listening can think about is, where can you, after listening to this episode, where can you approach something that's hard? How can you make a hard decision? How could you have a hard conversation? What is that conversation? Who is it with? What does it need to look like? How can you try something that's hard in the gym?
Think of it as any other lesson that you want to learn, whether it be in a gym space or learning a new skill set or having something in your tool belt that you don't have yet, and approaching it that way, knowing that it might not be easy at first, it might be messy the first couple of times, but like anything else, the more you do anything, the easier it becomes and the better you become at doing it.
Okay, one final little rapid fire question for you, my darling husband and business partner. If you were to give some words of encouragement for someone who's currently in the messy middle or in a hard season, what would they be?
You're far from being the only one. Mm-hmm. You aren't the first, and you absolutely won't be the last. And in some way or another, there's nobody who has gotten to their end destination yet. So we're all in the middle at some point of where we want to be, and none of it is figured out. Because if we were all figured out, we probably wouldn't be sitting on a couch right now talking about how to figure things out, because we're learning it on the fly too. So there's nobody who's figured it all out, as much as some people might want to come across that way on things that are as shiny as social media or anything else that you might want to subscribe to. Feel confident in knowing that all the work you're putting into this messy middle is what everybody else who's come before you who is massively successful has had to do too.
And I think remembering that hard is part of the process.
Absolutely.
And the sooner you can change your relationship with hard, and doing hard things and making hard decisions and hard conversations, the sooner you're going to put yourself on the map to greater success and more growth moments.
Yeah, without question. But you got to start.
You got to start. Here's to doing hard things.
Nonstop.
Because we get to do hard things. That's my little nugget takeaway for the day.
Nobody can not smile when you say that.
I know, and I'm saying it with a smile
Yeah.
for anyone that's watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Speaking of hard things, there is another Benchmark Fitness Challenge.
Yeah,
launching.
our second one, June 2nd.
Yep.
6 weeks. And we will provide everything that you need. So you've got 3 workouts a week for 6 weeks. It'll include daily accountability practices. We're going to have all the things that we want you to do on your off days, so you're not flailing around, not knowing where to go and what to do. We have a meal plan that comes along with this as well. So we're really excited about the programs that are in place. The feedback on the first round has been really encouraging. Yeah,
So
we've seen some, and heard more accurately, some really great real results from people who have been committed to it. And that's the key, right? It's called a challenge for a reason. It's not easy. But like we mentioned here, if you can just make the decision to do it, you're better because of it. And we want to be able to support it.
Because we get to do hard things. So if you're interested in joining the challenge, we would love to have you. It's for anyone, anywhere. And there is...
Worldwide, wide.
Sounds like Pitbull. Link is in the show notes, so check that out. We would love to have you and would love to welcome you to the Benchmark Fitness community. And speaking of community, we are so grateful to have you part of the Inspire and Move community. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We love you. We appreciate you. If you want to give back some love and you want to drop a little 5-star rating and review, I would love that. And we will see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you took a few seconds and shared this on social media, sent it to a friend, or left a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I'm so grateful to have you part of mine.